When darkness falls, would you brave the shadows to find the light within yourself? In the village of Amara, life was peaceful and full of joy. Nestled in a valley between the high green mountains and the dense, ancient forests, the village was a place of simple beauty. The villagers lived in harmony, working together, sharing stories, and celebrating life's blessings under the warm embrace of the sun. Among them was a young woman named Miriam. Miriam was the heart of Amara. Her laughter was like music that filled the air, and her spirit was a light that lifted everyone around her. One fateful day, a dark storm swept down from the mountains, fierce and relentless. The skies turned black, and lightning tore through the clouds as thunder shook the ground. The villagers huddled in their homes, waiting for the storm to pass, but it seemed endless. When the storm finally subsided, it left behind a thick fog that blanketed the village, obscuring the sunlight and casting everything in a haunting gray. The fog settled over Amara like a shroud. Days turned to weeks, and the villagers grew uneasy. They had never experienced darkness like this. Even Miriam, who had always been the source of light and laughter, began to feel the weight of the shadows. She watched as her once vibrant village became quiet, her friends and neighbors somber and filled with dread. One evening, as Miriam sat by the village well, she let her fingers trace the rim of the cold stone, her mind drifting into worry and sadness. She missed the sun, the warmth, the life that filled their village. She wondered if they would ever see the light again. As Miriam sat lost in thought, an elder of the village approached her. The elder was known for her wisdom and resilience, a woman who had lived through many seasons of change. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes held a spark of knowledge and understanding. "Why do you sit here in such sorrow, Miriam?" the elder asked, her voice soft and filled with kindness. Miriam looked up, her eyes heavy with worry. "This darkness feels endless," she whispered. "I don't understand why we must endure it. What purpose could there be in all this suffering?" The elder placed a gentle hand on Miriam's shoulder. "The fog is not here to harm us, Miriam," she said, her voice steady. "It is here to teach us, to guide us. The light you seek is not lost. It is simply hidden, waiting for those who have the courage to find it." Miriam felt a spark of hope flicker within her, but it was mixed with fear. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Where must I go to find the light?" "You must journey beyond the forest and climb the mountains," the elder replied. "There, beyond the shadows, you will find the light. But the journey will not be easy. It will test you, and you must be willing to face the darkness within and without." Miriam's heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. She knew that the journey would be difficult, but she could feel a calling within her, a sense that this was something she had to do. She stood, her resolve strengthening. She would go not only for herself but for her village, for the people who had lost hope. The elder nodded approvingly, sensing Miriam's determination. "Remember, Miriam," she said, "the light is not something you will simply find. It is something you must uncover within yourself. The journey will reveal it to you." Early the next morning, Miriam prepared for her journey. She packed only what she could carry, a small lantern, some food, and a flask of water. She wrapped herself in a thick cloak and said her farewells to her family and friends. They watched her go with a mixture of pride and fear, for they knew the path she was taking was filled with unknown dangers. The entrance to the forest loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. The trees towered above, their branches twisting together to form a canopy that blocked out what little light there was. The fog was thick here and the silence was heavy. Each step Miriam took felt like it echoed in the quiet of the forest. As she ventured deeper, shadows began to play tricks on her eyes. Dark shapes moved at the edge of her vision, and strange sounds echoed around her. She felt a chill run down her spine, a whisper of fear that made her question whether she was truly strong enough for this journey. But she pressed on, remembering the elder's words. She had been chosen to seek the light, and she would not let fear hold her back. Each step forward was a victory over the darkness within her own heart. As night fell, Miriam found herself alone in the heart of the forest. She lit her small lantern, its faint glow barely illuminating the path ahead. The cold settled into her bones, and the silence of the forest felt overwhelming. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Miriam sank to her knees, staring at the darkness around her. Her heart was heavy with doubt, and she began to wonder if this journey was a mistake. She felt small, lost, and utterly alone. Then in the stillness, a voice seemed to whisper from the shadows. It was soft, almost mournful, and it seemed to echo from every direction. "Why do you struggle, Miriam?" the voice asked, filled with sorrow. "This darkness is all there is. Turn back and you can escape this pain." For a moment, Miriam felt the weight of despair pressing down on her. The thought of returning, of escaping this seemingly endless journey, was tempting. But as she closed her eyes, she thought of her village, of the people who depended on her, and of the elders' words. Taking a deep breath, she whispered into the darkness, "I may not know what lies ahead, but I will not turn back. My people are counting on me, and I believe there is something worth finding beyond these shadows." The voice fell silent, and though the shadows remained, Miriam felt a quiet strength rising within her. She rose to her feet, her doubts pushed aside by a newfound determination. She would not let despair consume her. After days of wandering through the forest, Miriam reached a wide, rushing river. The water was dark and cold, reflecting the misty trees around it. Miriam gazed into the water, and as she did, she saw her own face staring back at her, tired, worn, but still strong. The river seemed to whisper to her, its voice gentle and wise. "Look within, Miriam," it said. "The strength you seek does not lie beyond, but within your own heart. You are braver than you know." Miriam stared at her reflection, seeing not just the frightened young woman who had left her village but someone who had walked through shadows and refused to yield. She felt a sense of pride and resilience, a reminder of the strength that lay within her. With a deep breath, Miriam took a step forward, crossing the river with a sense of purpose. The journey had not broken her, it had made her stronger. She understood now that the shadows were not there to stop her but to shape her. Beyond the river lay a towering mountain, its peak hidden in mist. Miriam knew that the light she sought might lie at the top, but the climb was steep and filled with challenges. Each step was a struggle, her body aching and her spirit tested. As she climbed, she encountered obstacles that forced her to confront her own limitations. She slipped on loose rocks, her hands scraped against rough surfaces, and the cold wind bit into her skin. But with each challenge, she found a strength she hadn't known before. The mountain was relentless, but Miriam's will was stronger. She climbed higher, each step bringing her closer to the light that had called to her. She knew now that this journey was not just about finding the light but about discovering the strength within herself. Near the summit of the mountain, Miriam found herself standing before a dark cave. The entrance was shrouded in shadows, and a sense of dread filled her heart. But she knew that this was the final test, the place where she would face her deepest fears. As she stepped into the cave, shadows danced along the walls, forming faces and figures that seemed to mock her. They whispered her doubts, her failures, her fears, trying to weaken her spirit. But Miriam held her lantern high, her voice steady. "You cannot scare me," she said, her voice filled with quiet strength. "I have walked through darkness and found the light within me. You have no power over me." The shadows retreated, fading into the walls until the cave was empty. Miriam felt a sense of triumph, a realization that she had overcome her fears. She had faced the darkness within herself and emerged stronger. At last, Miriam emerged from the cave onto a high plateau. The first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. She stood in awe, watching as the light dispelled the fog, revealing the beauty of the valley below. In that moment, Miriam understood that the light she had been searching for was not just the sun breaking through the fog but the strength, courage, and resilience she had discovered within her own heart. The darkness had not been an enemy but a guide, leading her to a truth she could not have known otherwise. With a heart full of peace and a spirit renewed, Miriam made her way back to her village. The villagers gathered around her, sensing the transformation within her. She shared her story, telling them of the trials she had faced, the fears she had conquered, and the light she had found within herself. "Do not fear the darkness," she told them, her voice filled with gentle wisdom. "It is there to teach us, to show us our strength. The fog has not taken the light away, it has simply hidden it so we may find it within ourselves." The villagers listened, their own burdens lifting as they saw the journey through Miriam's eyes. They too began to see the fog not as a curse but as a gift, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, there was a light waiting to be discovered. Miriam's story spread beyond her village, reaching other communities and inspiring people far and wide. She became known as a symbol of courage and resilience, a woman who had faced the shadows and emerged with a light that could not be extinguished. Her legacy lived on, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was a strength within each person waiting to be uncovered. Years later, as an elder herself, Miriam would sit by the village well, sharing her story with young travelers who came to seek her wisdom. And as they listened, they felt their own hearts strengthened, inspired by the journey of a young woman who had once walked through shadows and discovered the light within. And as Jesus finished his story, the disciples sat in silence, their hearts filled with a profound peace. They understood now that their own trials, their own paths through darkness, were not just obstacles but opportunities for growth, for transformation, and for connection. They left that place, each carrying a piece of Miriam's journey within their hearts, forever changed by the wisdom of the journey through shadows. This is end of the story. Comment amen if you believe in Jesus' blessings. Please like this video and subscribe this channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.